Thanks so much for joining us here today. I'm Wade Crowfoot, and I am fortunate to serve as our Natural Resources Secretary in California. We have a real treat today. We are joined by three leaders in the fishing and hunting world to share their journeys with these activities and the connection between what they do and priorities that we have in the state. So as you know, by looking at the screen, this conversation is all about understanding the connections between fishing and hunting in California and environmental conservation. And we're looking forward to understanding that connection here today and attempts underway to revitalize both fishing and hunting as outdoor activities that all Californians can participate in. Next slide, please, James. So what I want to do is share some very broad thoughts on what brings us to this discussion here today. I think a lot of us associate our Natural Resources Agency and Department of Fish and Wildlife with environmental conservation, like the photo that you see on the right of folks replanting native vegetation. But we don't, many of us don't fully understand the connection between hunting and fishing in the state and environmental conservation. Hunting obviously being represented by the photo on the left. And what's interesting is to understand this, we start with a bit of a history lesson. Next slide, please. Many of you may recognize this picture, and it is President Teddy Roosevelt and the legendary conservationist John Muir in Yosemite Valley in 1903. John Muir, the bearded gentleman to the right, was the founder of the Sierra Club in 1892, and obviously a champion of wilderness preservation. He was not a hunter. Actually, at one point in his life, he called hunting the murder business. And it was then, therefore, highly unlikely that he and Teddy Roosevelt built the rapport that they did. Teddy Roosevelt was quite a big hunter, both in North America and parts all over the world, and a conservationist. And Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir had what became a legendary camping trip together. Roosevelt, as a sitting president, in the Yosemite Valley, in Cathedral, what we know as Cathedral Grove of the giant sequoias and under Bridal Veil Falls. And Teddy Roosevelt came away from that experience in Yosemite Valley deeply moved. I want to read a quote he offered in DC, Washington, DC, shortly thereafter. And he said, "There could be nothing in the world more beautiful. Our people should see to it that these natural areas are preserved for their children and their children's children, that their majesty, beauty remains unmarred." And that ushered in this notion of the North American model of wildlife conservation, which under President Roosevelt initiated a system where hunting fees and fishing fees actually went to support the preservation of those wilderness areas that supported that fish and game. What's remarkable is in California, our state's history on protecting our wilderness areas and managing fish and game goes back almost 50 years before these two leaders met. Our Fish and Game Commission is celebrating its 150th anniversary this year. Next slide, please. So today we're talking about the legacy of fishing and hunting in California. We're going to hear from three dynamic leaders who are passionate about these activities, that can talk about their own journey to these activities and what they can mean to California. We will hear from each of them with some informal remarks, and then we'll start up a conversation. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions or share ideas via the website, or I'm sorry, the email that you see on the bottom of the screen, secretarysuggestions@resources.ca.gov. If you send an email with a question, that will be routed through one of my colleagues into the chat on this Zoom platform, and we'll work to integrate that question into the discussion. Now, before we hear from our guests, I've asked Chuck Bonham, our director of the Department of Fish and Wildlife, to give us a little context on hunting and fishing in California. Sort of what, for those who don't do it in their normal lives, what are we talking about? When does it occur? How does it occur? And how does it fund Department of Fish and Wildlife and environmental conservation in the state? So over to you, Chuck.
Great, Wade. Reminder myself, I got to get a different photo for my headshot. Hey, I think my job is to set the stage and kick it back to the secretary, get to a panel of people who are going to really speak about passion. I also want to speak more from the heart than the mind. And before beginning, thank Wade. Wade, I am finding that we're living a paradox. On one hand, we're all more disconnected than we've ever been physically, yet the ingenuity of you and Lizzie Williamson and agency creating a speaker series is actually having us more connected in many ways than we ever have. So it's seemingly contradictory, but your speaker series, the turnout for them, the energy around them, I think speaks to this need for us as communities to have a way to engage with each other. So huge props for doing this. Here's my starting proposition. California is great. James, could we get the next slide? California is great for a ton of reasons, but just thinking about hunting and fishing, so we're one of the most diverse landscapes in the entire world. The Secretary's hosted series around biodiversity and the natural wealth we have. It turns out our state offers some of the most diverse hunting and fishing opportunities anywhere you can find in America also. From fishing offshore in the ocean, where we have vibrant communities in Southern California who wake up each morning hungry and excited to get out into the ocean and fish, to trout in pristine high mountain settings in the state where we have some of the most iconic Western native trout that you can fish for, to salmon and steelhead on our coastal and valley rivers, which are hardy fish to hook a line into. Next slide, James. It's also the case that California offers some of the best waterfowl hunting anywhere in the country. Our turkey hunting is as good here as anywhere. And we have very robust licensing for hunting that has a high number of tags for deer hunting. And we have long hunting seasons because of our pretty moderate climate and temperature here in California. So at the bottom line, remember my proposition is California is great, and California has a lot to offer for hunters and anglers. You may have to work a little bit harder sometimes to get to it. Most of us live in metropolitan areas, and we have to maybe travel a little more to get to it. But the opportunity in this state is as good as any other state, I would argue, particularly in the West. I think what you're going to hear a moment from the panelists is something I also share personally. One of the things you find in the hunting and fishing world is also a passion for the resource. So I get to California after paying and putting myself through law school, saying yes to a job opportunity for an organization called Trout Unlimited, which is the nation's oldest and largest trout, salmon, and steelhead conservation group. They asked me to come to California from the Northwest and start their legal work. I said yes. What I found was a good fit for me in that organization was their mantra. If you take care of the fish, the fishing will follow. So in these organizations and in the community of hunting and fishing, you have this underlying ethos of taking care of the resource as a trust obligation in order to enjoy your recreational opportunity. So with that, can we do a next slide, James? I'm gonna come to this in a moment. While I'm talking, I'd ask everyone to kind of digest the trend lines that you see on this slide. But here's the next bottom line. We are celebrating our 150th anniversary, as Wade mentioned. California created a board of fish commissioners in 1870. But California is a much different place than it was when we were founded 150 years ago. Here's our origin story. At that moment in time, California was going through dramatic change. Gold rush was a reason why. Huge population change, oncoming communities arriving in California, and a lot of exploitation of fish and wildlife. Market hunting without any restrictions was overutilizing the resource. So the ethos of that original board of fish commissioners was to make sure the resources were managed sustainably so they could be passed on to future generations. And back then, our bread and butter was busting the poacher, the bad actor, the people that were abusing hunting and fishing and taking too much too often. Now, that's always been a core mission of our department. It is today as it was back then, and it will be in the future. But the fact of the matter is a lot has changed since then. Our mandates and our missions have evolved over time as well. We've gone from an organization mainly focused on those things to one that does those things, but also stuff our predecessors couldn't have imagined. We're in the middle of helping legalize cannabis cultivation. We're dealing with climate change and huge species migration challenges, vast landscape conservation partnerships with agencies and communities and governments, managing a warming ocean and huge whales swimming up and down the coast, things that nobody could have thought of 100 years ago. And as you imagine that shift in our state, 38 million people going to 50 million soon, another trend has played out over time. What you see on the screen is a steady decline in fishing and hunting participation in this state since the 1970s. If you look over at 2019 and you add up 257,000 hunting licenses with 1,643,000 sport fishing licenses, it's a population of about 2 million people. Now, I just looked before this on Wikipedia. That's about the total population of Nebraska. So on one hand, the total amount of hunters and anglers in this state is pretty large. It's about the same as Nebraska's total population, but it's 2 million within the context of 38 million running towards 50 million. A lot of people talk about the great fishing in Montana and Wyoming. I looked. Montana has only 989,000 total citizens. We have more hunters and fishermen and women in this state than the total population of Montana. But again, it's within a much bigger demographic and diversity rainbow of 50 million people soon. So what we've seen is, as the decline in hunting and fishing has occurred, coupled with additional responsibilities given to the department, the percentage of our overall budget contributed by hunting and fishing has shifted as well. Next slide, James. So what you see here is almost, 20 years ago, hunting and fishing was producing revenue for our department that was a much bigger slice of the pie. That's the 1990 to 91 pie chart. Here's how hunters and anglers contribute to our department. Arguably, they do it 3 ways. As a citizen of the state, they pay taxes like the rest of us, and the department annual budget has a component of general fund. Then, when the hunter and the angler wants to participate in the sport in California, they have to buy a license. And then third, when they purchase their gear, their ammunition, their rifle, their fishing tackle, the federal government charges an excise tax. It collects that tax and then it redistributes it to the state wildlife agencies on a formula that's basically land size and population size. You can go back to the original allocations, which happened a long time ago, which were started by that sportsmen, sportswomen kind of iconic legacy the secretary described, and see every year allocation to California. So as our participation rates have declined, what you also see is the overall slice of the pie, the 2019-20 number, has also declined. The amount of money generated by the hunters and anglers is increasing over time, but their relative contribution is decreasing. Now, none of this means we're forgetting about the important role hunters and anglers play, but what it does mean is we've got to realize our past, understand our current future, and think about how we plan for a different moment in the future. So we've got fewer people participating at a higher cost to fund conservation activities. That is not a sustainable trend. It will not work over time to rely solely on hunters and anglers. So this is another paradox. While we're going to hear a lot about recruiting, retaining, re-engaging people for hunting and fishing, our department's future, hunting and fishing's future, actually looks more like building a broader coalition. It involves bringing people into hunting and fishing, but maybe even more important, it means introducing as many Californians as we can to the outdoors. Bringing people who don't look like me, who aren't old, white, and aging, into the outdoors, expanding the diversity of the conservation movement, expanding the diversity of the hunting and fishing communities, and getting people outside, whether they hunt, fish, forage, take photos, or just want to be in nature. So while part of our future must be building our hunting and fishing world, it's got to be putting that in the aspect of encompassing coalition. The more people that experience the outdoors, the more allies we will have in protecting the use and enjoyment for future generations. What we're doing here at the department is a concerted commitment to something Jen will describe an R3 program. She's going to walk us through that in a moment. And we're beginning to see some of the fruits of the labors of that investment. As of a week ago, our hunting sales are up roughly 15% from this time last year. And our fishing license sales are up a few percentage points over the same time last year, even considering very low sales during April and May. So our future looks a lot like our past, but in many ways, it's got to embrace the diversity of California in all regards and head a different direction so we can have this robust conservation legacy pass on to the next generation. So with that, Wade, let me flip it back to you and get into our panelists. I appreciate the opportunity to kick it off.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chuck. That was great. Ultimately, I think what we want to see is more of this. This is a father and son setting decoys in the outdoors and ensure that more people in California have the opportunity to do that. So we're shifting into a conversation with three really special guests who are leaders and passionate voices for these activities. The first is Holly Heiser, who serves as Communication Director of the California Waterfowl Association. And Holly, for many of us who don't hunt, I think you're the ideal person to share your story and talk about the connection between hunting and conservation, given that I think you've described yourself as an adult onset hunter who came to this sport fairly recently. So let me turn it over to you for your thoughts on this topic.
Thank you so much, Secretary Crowfoot. I appreciate the introduction. So I started hunting in 2006 when I was 41, and I have to say it surprised the hell out of my family. I didn't particularly like guns. I was pretty liberal. And when my dad used to hunt, he had actually stopped before I was born, so I wasn't raised around any hunters whatsoever. I was, however, comfortable with the idea of killing animals for meat because my family had raised chickens and pigs and rabbits to put food on the table. But I got to admit, I was a little uncomfortable with the fact that hunters appeared to enjoy the act that for us was really grim. So that all ended up changing, obviously. That's why I'm here. And here's what happened. In 2002, my boyfriend Hank and I moved from Virginia to Minnesota to work for the St. Paul Pioneer Press. And when we were there, we befriended the hunting and fishing writer, Chris Niskanen. Hank told Niski how much he missed fishing on the ocean, and Niski suggested that he take up hunting as a way to fill the void. Well, Hank bit, so he ended up getting a gun and he started chasing squirrels and rabbits on frigid Minnesota mornings. So From the very start, Hank invited me to join him, but I just didn't see the allure. I mean, if you wanted to eat rabbits, you could raise them in your backyard and dispatch them at a civilized hour. But I said, thanks, but no thanks. 2 years later, we moved to Sacramento, and he diligently looked up what's good to hunt in Sacramento, and he came across duck hunting. So he taught himself to hunt ducks. And if any of you out there are duck hunters, you'll know that teaching yourself how to hunt ducks is a little bit insane. It's super complicated, and you really need a mentor to understand it. So at first he wasn't very good at it, but eventually he started bringing home birds, and they didn't taste very good. He was shooting coots. And then he started bringing home ducks. And then one day he brought home these 2 incredibly fat ducks, and he roasted them whole, and we sat down at the dinner table and ate them. And there was no knives, no forks. We just picked up those ducks and dug in, and there was fat dribbling down our chins, and our cat Paco was circling the table, meow, meow, like a little shark. Paca loved nothing more than roast bird. And because we loved her, we actually shared with her as well. She was very lucky. So that dinner pretty much did the trick for me. I decided that I wanted to eat a lot more meals like that, so I was going to have to take up hunting too. So I let Hank know I was in, and then I started getting ready. I signed up for hunter education. I dropped $1,500 on a shotgun, waders, and jacket, and dove in head first. Funny thing is, I thought I was just going to be taking up a hobby that was going to put meat on the table. What I didn't really realize is this was going to transform my worldview completely. So as chance would have it, my first hunt was not a duck hunt, but a pheasant hunt. And it was on a drizzly cold November morning in a field, a fallow rice field on Sankey Road, north of Sacramento. So we set out with a group of hunters in a straight line, because that's what you do to try to flush the birds so you can get a chance to take a shot at them. And not long into the field, I looked down and I saw a rooster creeping through the grass. Well, the flushing dog was nowhere near us. So Hank said, Holly, just go walk up on it and see if you can get it to flush. So I mounted my shotgun first, which is really dorky. You're not supposed to do that. But I was so nervous and so new at it, I thought I better be ready. And I crept up on the bird and he flushed. And so I swung slowly and I edged the muzzle out ahead of the bird, just like my shooting instructor had taught me. And I pulled the trigger, and I'll be damned if that bird didn't fall out of the sky. So my feelings were totally a jumble. While I had made the decision to kill for food long before I arrived in that field, it's still a very sober moment when you actually take a life, because this is what makes you understand the true cost of eating meat. So on the other hand, I also felt really exhilarated because a lot of things had to come together perfectly for that moment to happen. I had studied hunting, I had taken a shooting lesson, I arrived in the right place at the right time, I spotted game. I got to tell you, spotting game is a really huge step. And then when the time came, I actually shot properly and I dropped the bird. And when all of that comes together, you end up with a bird in your bag and you've succeeded. So it was really exhilarating, and I wanted to do it over and over again. So we kept hunting. The morning was young. We kept hunting. It was miserable weather, and Hank ended up getting a couple more birds, but I didn't see any more, much less get to take any more shots. And I would have hunted all day because I just wanted more of that. And Hank said finally, like, can we stop and go home now? I said, okay, fine. So the day was over, but what I didn't realize was there was still one more revelation to come. So when we drove to Sankey Road that morning, all the fields we passed, whether they were farmed or fallowed, to me, they just looked empty, like there was nothing there. But on the drive home, I suddenly saw them completely differently. Every field I looked at was a place where animals lived. And some of them were animals that I could hunt and eat. So my eyes, I just scoured them all the way home, hoping to catch another glimpse of a bird, even though I couldn't stop and shoot at that bird. I just wanted to see another one because seeing an animal in nature was so exciting. So the way I saw land changed forever just over the course of a few hours of hunting that first morning. So if my introduction to pheasant habitat was a revelation, let me tell you, my introduction to waterfowl hunting and wetlands was truly mind-blowing. See, most people just don't get to spend time in wetlands. It's not a place where you want to swim. You can't really jet ski in it. The water is really gross because it's stained by decaying vegetation. It smells pretty bad, and there's a lot of bugs, and you need a lot of specialized gear to get into it, like waders or a flat bottom boat. And Most people just don't do that. So most people, what you see is the edge of the wetland, you see a bank of tules, and after that, because a wetland is inherently flat, you see nothing. So it just looks like nothing. But if you're a duck hunter, you are highly motivated to get out there because that's where you find the ducks. So one day in 2012, I got an email from a friend inviting me to hunt with him on opening day. He had gotten a reservation to hunt at the Little Dry Creek unit of the Upper Butte Basin Wildlife Area in the Sacramento Valley. And if you've never heard of this place, it is amazing. It is the duck mecca. It is the most coveted reservation you can get. So when he sent me that invite, I said, I am in. I didn't even have to think about it. So we got there at 4 a.m. and I got out of my car and I was all excited because like I expected to hear the din of geese and ducks, and I heard nothing but mosquitoes. And that was really weird. I mean, were the birds not down yet? I was a little bit concerned that they weren't there. And I looked around and I could see the other hunters were also looking kind of concerned, like, why is it so quiet out there? But we're there, so we might as well hunt, right? So when our reservation number was called, we chose our blind and we headed out on these dark levee roads, pushing our carts full of decoys. We couldn't hear any ducks, we couldn't hear any geese. All we could hear was the swishing of our neoprene waders as we walked and the clank of our plastic decoys hitting one another in our carts. As we approached our pond, we started hearing a few distant geese, so that was a relief. And then as we set up our decoys, we could hear a few ducks here and there. So there was a widgeon over here and a drake mallard over there. And then off over here was a hen green-winged teal. And if you have never heard a hen green-winged teal, you should look it up because it sounds like the laughter of the Wicked Witch of the West on helium. It is both terrifying if it's dark outside and hilarious at the same time. So we'd heard a few ducks around us. We were feeling like, okay, this day probably isn't going to be a total bust, but we were still worried. So we settled down into the blind and waited for shoot time to come. And then the weirdest thing happened. It was as if God had looked down and noticed that he'd left the mute button on, and he went doink. And then all of a sudden, over the course of just a few minutes, it was like someone turned up the volume on the refuge, and suddenly there was just this deafening roar of ducks and geese all around us. They'd been all around us all morning long. They just hadn't been talking. So we sat there and listened to them. And as the sky got a little bit lighter, the birds started taking off, and it was still super blue, super dark blue sky, but you could see these little black silhouettes against the sky, like little fat torpedoes flying through the air. And it's like, whoom, one goes that way, and whoom, one goes that way. And then one whoo, right over my head. Like if I had reached up, I could have caught that bird and he would have been really surprised. So it was really stunningly beautiful. And at one point I looked up and I realized I was covered by a ducknado. There was just literally thousands of ducks flying every which way over our heads. We were dumbstruck. It was breathtaking. We were sitting there with our mouths hanging open. We probably ate a gallon of mosquitoes and didn't even realize it. What we were seeing was living art. It was like watching a tapestry weave itself. It literally brought me to tears repeatedly. It was just so beautiful. So that's what goes on in a marsh. That's what goes on in this place that most of us can't see and that looks like an emptiness and nothingness, but it's not. It's actually just like the ground floor of this incredible avian cathedral. So here's the thing. Hunting allows you to rejoin this incredibly beautiful world that we have abandoned as a home for the past 10,000 years. You might think I'm crazy to get up at 2:30 a.m. to go duck hunting and maybe come back with nothing more than a couple pounds of duck meat, or maybe nothing at all. I think you're crazy not to. See, hunting made me fall in love with the land. Hunting made me fall in love with wildlife. Hunting makes me wonder every day, like, why did we ever leave this beautiful home that we called nature? And hunting makes me want to protect that home for all the animals that remain and depend on it. It makes me want to protect it against the onslaught of concrete and steel that is habitat only for humans, and precious few animals are welcome in it. So we can talk about dollars all we want. We can talk about hunting licenses and Pittman-Robertson excise tax revenue and DFW budgets all day long, but this is what you need to remember. Hunters love the land. And yes, we do love having land that we can hunt on. I am not going to deny that there's an element of self-interest to our love for the land, but that's not all it is. The reality is we love seeing abundance out there. What my friends and I saw at Little Dry Creek that day was absolutely electrifying. And when you think about it, that kind of abundance is a sign that there's something we humans haven't screwed up. So there is one more thing I do want to point out about money and the connection between hunters and conservation. It's this very bright line connection between duck hunting and wetland conservation in California. California has destroyed an estimated 95% of its wetlands. We drained them and replaced them with agriculture. We filled them with rocks and dirt and built on them, and almost all of it's now gone. What is left is heavily managed, and you might think that most of it would be public land, but 2/3 of managed wetlands in California are actually in private hands, and those are primarily duck clubs. Duck hunters are insane. We will spend ridiculous amounts of money to go duck hunting, and if we're financially well off, we will also invest heavily in having duck clubs. So I have some friends who have a duck club in the Upper Butte Basin. It's a really nice club, about 400 or 500 acres. They converted it back from rice a few years back. And here's how much they hunt it. A few hours a day, 2 days a week, 15 weeks a year. That's it. Now, the cost of maintaining that waterfowl habitat, they say, is as expensive as maintaining a farm, except they don't have a crop. So they don't have anything that produces revenue. They are doing this for the love of ducks and duck hunting. So it's a nice club, and I always kind of wondered what it would cost to get into it, but I figured it was one of those things where if you had to ask, you probably couldn't afford it. Fortunately, I didn't have to ask. They had a membership come open at the club, and they placed a classified ad in the magazine that I was editing at the time, California Waterfowl. And it turns out the asking price for getting into this club, now that's just to buy in, not to support any of the annual maintenance fees for keeping the habitat going, $1.25 million to buy into this club. It's insane, right? So here's what's so beautiful about that. At some point in our not so recent history, someone had decided that that land had no value as a wetland, so they drained it and converted it to agriculture. This is something that was repeated over and over in California's deep history. But to these duck hunters, that land had way more value as a wetland. And literally now, tens of thousands of ducks and geese and other wetland-dependent species get to live and eat and rest on that land as a result of those hunters placing value on it. That is what hunters do for habitat in California. And if hunters disappear, I ask you this: who else would be crazy enough to do that? Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you, and I will be happy to take your questions later in the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Remarkable stories. And I have to say, I moved to Sacramento with my family last summer, and easily the most inspirational connection I've had with nature since I've been up here is getting up to Gray's Lodge Refuge for a groundbreaking event and happening to be up there at the at sunset flight. And it felt like what I would imagine the African savanna does, just in terms of the life that was there. And that refuge is truly a partnership of the federal and state agencies and hunters. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to asking you some questions. We're going to move now from the Sacramento Valley in Northern California to Southern California and more populated urban Southern California, and from hunting to fishing. We're really lucky to be joined by Kevin Brannon, who is on fire in so many ways, being a leader in the fishing movement in Southern California and broadening fishing for more people and more kids to fish than had ever been able to do so before. So I've only gotten to know Kevin through preparation for this discussion, but I'm really impressed with the level of energy he brings to all this and what he's been able to develop just through his passion for people and fishing. So welcome, Kevin.
The way I always say it, man, growing up on the beach and fishing, when I'm on the water, I didn't have to worry about home. I didn't have to worry about issues. It clears your mind. You know, being on the water, it's just so much clarity. And it's like at peace. It's some therapy that money can't buy. But there's just something about being out in the elements, man, that do it for fishing. Hello, I'm Kevin Brannon, founder of the Real Guppy Outdoor program here in Port Hueneme, California, the coolest place on the planet. By 5th grade, I got from living with my aunt and uncle. My mom got out of drug rehab. My brother got out of YA, so we're kind of almost like a family again. You know, my dad overdosed when I was 6. My brother's dad's doing life in prison. So that's just kind of the way we grew up. You kind of learn how to adapt to it. By the time I moved out of my mom's house at 15 years old, I wasn't gonna live on a motel room floor any longer. And she was living in here with my brother, 15 years old. And I think I just had about enough of that at that age. I just always knew there was something more for me to do, something bigger for me to do. Inside, I knew that, you know, and I've been living that grind ever since. I've loved fishing my whole life. Next to my house is a creek with the brown barrels behind a motel that we used to fish in for crawdad and carp and stuff like that. And that's how I started fishing out here about 7 years old on the Port Hueneme Pier, using a drop line with a hook I'd find on the floor and a little piece of bait out of the fillet sink and start fishing. And it just kind of escalated from there. The Real Guppy program is a program that I started here locally, knowing that our neighborhood needed something positive for kids to do, something free in our own backyard in our community, a way to show kids and expose them the outdoors and fishing that might not normally get an opportunity to do so. It's a way to teach them about the ecosystem, about being stewards. And most of these kids don't even go to the beach. And without our Guppy program, a lot of them wouldn't get this kind of exposure to adventure. But where we started at, 5 years ago before we were a nonprofit, to where we're at now, it's definitely grown bigger than we imagined, and it's even getting bigger. More people have caught a memory with us in their first fish than I think anywhere else. We've taken over 1,600 kids out fishing, catching a memory that lasts them a lifetime, and also starting new adventures for families. The Real Guppy Outdoor program basically all started with family, right? Dad has this idea that he wants to start a fishing club that takes kids out fishing, so it started with the kids. All my kids started fishing at a young age, working on fishing boats. As soon as they could come out and walk and come out with Dad, they're on the boat, all my kids. And it's a family organization. All these kids come out and give back, and they're part of the Guppy program, so they get a chance to learn about being volunteers through, again, their dad's vision, and it's heartwarming, you know? My kids have been in it gung-ho since the beginning. And I could see them now getting older, taking part in the things that they do, leading by example and getting hands-on and helping out more because of what we instilled with them at a young age as far as what our jobs are here on earth is to help and give back. So by them seeing their father give true testimony to what one's vision and dream can bring and letting them be a part of it, I think it's great. You can ask for something better than that, you know? And they work for Hugs, so, that keeps the cost down. Fishing does have different things that it teaches you besides just catching a fish, and it's proven. So we're teaching these kids to fish so they can eat forever and ever and teach their kids how to fish. So fishing, again, it's not just about catching a big trophy fish you could put on the wall. It's about learning some of life's lessons as well. Part of the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary is, again, the wildlife. When we take the kids into the channel and you can see dolphin coming around the boat, the kids get a chance to see dolphins riding the waves and, again, getting to experience that. To see this with their own eyes and to hear them jumping up and down on the boat, excited to see this, man. It makes even our volunteers get teary-eyed. Our program is educating the kids on how all this stuff works. Again, healthy ecosystem, stewardship, how we all play our part. And again, exposing them to this 9 miles off in their own backyard in the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. It's wonderful. Living my dream every day with my family. Would I love to do fishing for our industry, teach people about the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. I mean, I get to do everything that I want to do. I'm like a big kid. I get to share that with my kids, and then they'll share with their kids. And that's basically what fishing's all about, right?
Wow, wonderful video that really kind of captures the essence of all that Kevin's doing with Real Guppy. Kevin, if you would, be great for you to unmute your video and audio and join us and share your perspective on your own journey on fishing and its connection to environmental conservation.
Yes, sir. Again, thank you guys for having me come on this panel, man. It's a real treat, and very honored to be part of this panel and kind of give an overview about fishing, a little bit of my story, what fishing means to me in the industry, and passing along these traditions to the next generation with diversity in mind as well. I'm mixed I'm multicultural, so I'm Black, white, and Portuguese. So I got a little bit of, Black, brown, and white, so I get to see it from all angles and depending on what family I'm with, But fishing, as you can see this photograph right here, this is my cousin Anthony and my son right here fishing, and we're fishing on the beach down in I think Santa Monica, but these are the original guppies. And the reason we started the name Real Guppies is because I do a TV fishing show called Real English Fishing Show, and I was able to give back in our community. But you know, if you watch The Dog Whisperer, how he has the group of little dogs that follow the other dogs around. So I thought it'd be good to not just be an adult-based organization, that we wanted the kids to do it. So we used to give the kids a camera called the Guppy Cam, and it would pick up stuff at the kid days that we couldn't get. But it also showed kids, you know, we don't like to use the word no. So to let them be very hands-on and educational, and they see other kids doing it, they might be more prone to give it a try themselves, as long as they're not, you know, stabbing the anchovies in the face or something. That's little Livs right there. She's about 7 years old now. She's been with the program for a long time. But when we went to ICAST, probably my first time I went to ICAST 6 years ago, when it was in Vegas, which is the biggest fishing conference in America, they talked about getting it into diversity in fishing. So that was something that we wanted to make sure we definitely incorporated. But my TV show, we get the term like two Bubbas in a boat, you know, a lot of the Southern bass fishing shows and stuff. So our California element was part of the TV show as well. The music, the faces, you know, I got tattoos and stuff, things that you see differently, but that way people that are watching, especially in Southern California, as high of a Hispanic population that we have, we look like what they look like, wearing, you know, Dickies and khakis and the music and stuff. So we wanted to make sure that we had that in part of our filmmaking as well, so that you could feel California. We live in the Channel Islands National Park, the Marine Sanctuary, one of the coolest places, man. I mean, the upwelling that comes through, I'm like a nerd when it comes to this stuff, you know? So to be able to share that, like one of my favorite shows was Reading Rainbow growing up, and LeVar Burton would get into the storytelling, and he talked about microorganisms and different stuff. So that was kind of the idea that I had when I started doing the TV show. Again, it wasn't so much a big fishing show about exotic locations. We wanted to break it down. That's why the pier fishing off of sport boats. I was a deckhand for 12 years working on boats. One of the things I noticed working in the tackle shop too was a lot of the phone numbers that I would take, write them down, would be from out of this area. And we have kids that live 9 miles away from the islands that have never been there. So by merging my contacts through the fishing industry, by working on boats as a pinhead, some of the guys I grew up with, they run sport boats here locally out of Oxnard and Channel Islands. So again, I was able to use those resources, just like fishing, right? Like, hey, I'm doing this cool program, I'm doing this fishing show. And as it continued to grow, we started getting support and donations, and the sport fishing place. That's what the Girl Scouts, man, we did our own group with them. So a little history on the program. We do it once a month. It's always on the fourth Sunday. That's before we had the pandemic, so we're going to do some remodifications on that. But we do 10 a month, and the only months we don't do is November and December because of the holidays, and give our board and volunteers, you know, time to relax. But we also open it up for small groups on their own, about 40 of them. So that way, you have that more intimate setting to teach them knot tying and things like that you can't do when you have now showing up over 150 participants showing up at our program. So this one right here was with the Girl Scouts, and they had their own day, teaching them about conservancy is big. We give them a license. We partnered with Brian Young from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. He gives us a little fishing licenses. So the kids are already, even though they don't need one, we're able to show that just get them started on what they're going to be doing, right? We start the process now of conservancy, sustainable fishery. I'm also the president for the Coastal Conservation Association here in Channel Islands. That's my brother on the far side. He's a reggae artist. He comes out and does and helps out. Those are some more Girl Scouts. That's some of the, you can see the material that we have there, or some RBFF, another partner, Recreation and Boating Foundation. They do the women thing called Rock the Boat. So you could see in the photos, again, there's diversity, first time anglers, lady anglers. We get testimonial about families that did it before, but their family, they don't do it now. And this program is a 101 to show them how easy it is to tie a hook and to get them started again. We're working on something now called the Guppy Ranger. The kids are doing beach cleanup to learn about stewardship. I mean, there's just so many components that we could use through fishing, but family engagement is one of the big ones. This was a high school that we took out. The guy right here in the front is a board member, Pacifica High School. So we're kind of cycling the kids through the program as some of them are aging out, like Anthony, that first little boy you've seen with the perch. He's a Marine now, so he's gone. So we have other kids that are coming in that are helping the kids. So again, utilizing that that thought process of Cesar Milian and the Dog Whisperer, of how you keep a little group around that's going to help. And then these kids get a chance when they come and help at these older kids come and help at our program, then they get boat trips and stuff, you know. A lot of community support, you know, we don't have a lot of funding. I'm an exterminator for Orkin by day, so this is all about passion. My board members take time out of their day to do what they can. And we have a diversity of board members that aren't just fishermen that are loving fishing as well. They come out with their families now. They're buying hoop nets. They're buying fishing licenses. They're learning about size limits and also processing and taking the fish and taking home to cook it and prepare it. I believe that we have this, this thing in our body about hunter gatherer that we like, whether it be growing your own vegetables or harvesting your own fish, or you go out and you're a hunter and you bring it home. There's just something about it. And when a kid gives us this whole story from they caught their first fish, they caught it with us. The mom said, I ran into a lady at Walmart. She's like, hey, you're the guppy guy. He brought the fish home and he cooked it. I mean, you could just see them light up with this joy. I say we haven't hit all of our wow moments yet. We're still getting, wow, this is the greatest day, or this is so much fun, or, thank you guys for being here. And it's just amazing, man. We've already done over 3,000 kids now. The video has been about 2 years. And again, that's another partner we met at ICAST, which is NOAA, National Oceanic, Astronomical Administration. So starting as a little group in Port Hueneme, California, to be partners with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, NOAA, RBFF, is just showing who else, IGFA, they send us stuff for our clinics. And again, making sure that what they're looking for, we deliver the content that they need as well to keep them, with the R3, the recruitment, and get them to retain it, and reactivate their licenses and stuff that we, as being part of the industry. I worked on boats when they started closing down the islands for like 2 months in the rockfish season. And I seen what that did for our economy working on a boat. So I have a passion for it. I've been to the rock fishing release seminars and stuff, and learning how do we work together as recreational fishermen. So if we could start doing this with the youth now as they grow, letting them know we just don't kill fish for the sake of killing them. If we're going to use the mackerel for bait, if we're going to catch the lobster season, we caught a lobster like a week after the season closed, and explaining that they can't keep it, or a 20-inch halibut that's 2 inches short, even though that's my favorite eating fish, why we have to release that fish back in there, and let them know, like, we have to, when we catch them, how delicate they are to release them, it's phenomenal. Teaching about the ecosystem, how the sand crabs go to catch the perch, and how the perch, the halibut eat, or the sand sharks. So we're teaching about, the ecosystem and symbiotic relationships. So I thought we lure them in, with fishing, but there's so many components. And then as we get to the high school level, and this is kind of a little off topic, but utilizing those kids in this area to be able to what are they passionate about? How do we start mentoring them into other things, that they just like feeding back into them, to show, just because we grow up in this area, I grew up really in a kind of a rougher part of the area, and I've seen it all from single moms and uncles and dads in and out of the prison system. So, we do need some light in this area. And if it's just, this isn't what I planned when I started, just taking a couple of kids from my apartment complex out, but it gives me a platform to really, again, talk about fishing, getting back into our youth. We've done a few things with some local schools, going and teaching them hands-on. They wrote us little books back. We're working on our own booklets right now, our own little workbook. So it's just phenomenal, man. I have a great team of people that just come in and say, hey, how can we help with this wonderful program? And they never tied a hook before, but again, just them seeing what we're doing makes them want to open up their heart to the community, man. And whatever we could do for Department of Fish and Wildlife and keeping fishing licenses, getting them up. I know that's how you gauge it, right? How many people are fishing by how it's declining. So that's kind of what we tell people, why you have to get a license, the reason they should need a license, how we could tell how many people aren't fishing. And if for some small part that we can do that and get more people out fishing, that's great. And it's something, if I tell somebody I do a TV show or a kid program, you could see like their tunnel vision go straight into like the story that they had when they were 6 years old. And it's kind of cool because, again, you bring up that memory. That's why our slogan is let's go catch a memory, because it's not about, again, a big trophy fish or something, which are great. Don't get me all wrong. But if you get them hooked with just that first little small, they're catching it all on their own from start to finish, tying the hook, tying the weight and doing it. And if they were without us, they weren't able to do that, then that's kind of cool. And then again, explaining our partnerships that we have and giving them material. The Department of Fish and Wildlife supplies us with materials and all the stuff that we need, again, to keep sustainable fishery and licensings and all that stuff. But again, by incorporating that into them at a young age, I believe those traditions are going to keep going. I remember, I think it was RBFF that sent us some data for us to take a look at. And that was that if you're not fishing, I think by the time you're like 13 or maybe it's 9, the percentage of you buying a license. If it's after 13, that percentage goes down again. If it's after like 15, it goes down again. I think after like 19, it's very small that you're going to continue to keep fishing. So if we could start working with them younger, then the data shows that they'll continue to become fishermen. But after we wait for too long for them to get started, that they might not ever fish. So that was kind of interesting data that we had. and then compiling our data with it of how many kids are that age, different age groups, diversity. What was the other one? Women, yeah, diversity, first-time fishermen, how, that kind of stuff. So we're utilizing with their material to pair with our science, that way we could keep data, and then we get that to Clark and them, as much as possible, so that they could share and see those different faces on their posts. So again, thank you very, very much. I kind of went off notes, but man, just let your heart speak, right?
Yeah, Kevin, thank you. I mean, it's incredible what you're doing, and you're a dynamo. And I think, our state departments feel very lucky to actually partner with you. Our Governor Newsom, talks about building a California for all, with access and opportunity. And in our world, in the resource agency, we talk about outdoors for all. And you are living that in a way that is just really inspirational. So thank you for all you're doing and will do. And I think we should be asking ourselves, how do we help the Kevin Brandons of the world actually, grow their impact? So we're going to shift to our third speaker, and that is Jen Benedette, who actually works for the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And she's got a fascinating job, and that is she is the spearhead coordinator of the R3 effort. We talked a lot about obviously Holly, Kevin just talked with passion about what this can mean to people, but also how fishing and hunting actually connect us back to the land and the resource, whether it's maritime or on land. So the R3 program is all about recruiting, retaining, and reactivating outdoor sports, fishing and hunting. So Jen, I want to turn it to you for your perspective, both on hunting as something that's important to you, but then also talking about the R3 program and both the challenges and the opportunities of getting more people engaged in the activities that Holly and Kevin have so eloquently spoke about.
Sure. Thank you so much for the introduction, Secretary Crowfoot. So as Secretary Crowfoot said, I'm the statewide R3 coordinator at the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And my story into the outdoors is much like Holly's. I started as an adult. I was not born and raised into hunting and fishing. And actually, my story really started with a quest and a desire to live sustainably. When I was in college, I spent a lot of time traveling around the world in the global south and working with communities on social justice issues. And these communities largely relied on sustenance farming, small game hunting, fishing, and foraging. And at that time in my life, I was actually a vegetarian because I had gotten sick so many times from eating meat that hadn't been refrigerated, and my Western gut just couldn't quite take it. So anyway, somehow that turned into 10 years of not eating meat. And when I came back to stateside, I wasn't opposed to eating meat. I was an FFA kid, which is Future Farmers of America, and I raised livestock. And I definitely knew I wasn't opposed to eating meat, but I knew I was opposed to a huge carbon footprint in my life after all I had learned. And I knew I wanted a sustainable lifestyle, and I wasn't quite sure how to do that and what that might look like for me. And navigating that was hard because on one hand, I had all this data that showed that, factory farming wasn't really sustainable with soil degradation and air quality issues beyond, population in small areas of animals. And then on the other side, sort of meat replacement products wasn't really great either because of monocropping of soy and corn products. And so I was sort of left in this spot thinking, well, what am I going to do? Like, none of these things are good answers for my life. And I really had to take the time to evaluate like what my personal ethics were and what it was that I wanted to incorporate into my lifestyle. So the more I learned, the more I researched, the more I realized that hunting and fishing was the most sustainable option for me personally. And I think that as I started to hunt and fish, I found it really hard to get into because I didn't know anybody that hunted. I knew some people that fished, but it really seemed like it was sort of a good old boys club. And being a young female, I had lots of people invite me out on boats, but unfortunately, I never was able to learn the skills that I needed because of ulterior motives. So, it sort of left me in this position as a young female. I was afraid to go out with people I didn't know. I had no idea what I was stepping into. I just knew that I had this sort of desire to to really learn a skill set that was completely foreign to me. And so fast forward to today, and these kind of conversations really are really what is at the heart of R3. How do you get to a place where you can remove these barriers to participation? And the barriers are different depending on the demographic and the individual person. The barriers that I experience as a female are very different than the barriers that somebody who, you know, lives in the inner city, you know, or somebody who lives in an extreme rural area. You know, people think rural areas equal hunting and fishing, but that's just not true, because rural areas also equal poverty. And so there's all sorts of these different types of barriers that exist around California. And so today I just want to talk a little bit about what R3 is, what we're doing to overcome some of these barriers from a government standpoint. So what is R3? You know, our presenters have talked about R3 without really going into detail about what that is. So in short, it's a nationwide movement to increase participation in hunting, fishing, and the shooting sports. And it stands for recruit, retain, and reactivate. The decline in hunting and fishing activities have occurred over several decades, and they contribute to an ever-increasing threat to conservation and the management of our natural resources, as you've heard today. So trying to explain the decline in a nutshell is not easy, because there's so many different factors that go into it. But the three big ones is social changes, demographic changes, and societal changes. So what do I mean by that? So the social changes are things like extreme competition for time in the array of activities that exist for our lifestyles today. You know, you have kids that have 50 different choices for extracurriculars, where, you know, 50 years ago that wasn't the case. We also live in a high pressure society where we're expected to sort of compete at this level to make sure we're hitting all these check marks socially. And so that definitely interferes with people's priorities in choosing which activities they want to participate in. The demographic changes in California from 50 years ago are quite interesting. Unfortunately, the advertising, marketing, and outreach for hunting and fishing has targeted older white males for decades, and really that's created a lack of relevancy to other demographics and barriers to inclusiveness to today, which has helped the decline. And then societal, the way we obtain our food, the relationship with that food, and the convenience of our food sources have all shifted as well, making hunting and fishing not as relevant to many of us today. So what are we doing to change that? So CDFW's joined forces with other state resource agencies across the entire nation. This is not a California thing. R3 is not California centric. It's a nationwide effort, and every single state in the entire nation is working on it. And so we have a huge network nationally where we're working together to address changes on a larger scale. But on a state scale, we're also joining hands with our NGO conservation partners, outdoor industry partners, volunteers, educators, media, and any other entity that has a stake in the continuation of hunting and fishing for the future. And collectively, we call these people R3 stakeholders. Slide, please. These are the R3 stakeholders for California. It's kind of what the wheelhouse looks like. And if you look at it, you're going to notice hunters and anglers are not actually on this. And it's intentional, because the boots on the ground, the hunters and anglers in the field, they do this work every day. You know, when you ask a hunter and angler, hey, who did you introduce to hunting and fishing this year? Most people, you know, have an answer of someone. They've had a conversation with someone. They've brought someone out. You know, in California, R3 really starts as a new way to do business with the non-hunting, non-fishing community, and a better way to do business with the current hunting and fishing community. Slide. So the R3 stakeholders, including CDFW in that, have joined forces to create a statewide action plan and implementation strategy based on R3 conservation science, community experiences and knowledge, and a commitment for the future. And you see on the screen here, this is our mission. And it's to really increase statewide hunting and fishing participation by collaborating with diverse stakeholders and to transform barriers into opportunities. So I I really want to focus on that second part, to turn barriers into opportunities. This is really key in California because there's a lot of barriers to participation. So the CDFW R3 team and R3 stakeholders were committed to working together to open more opportunities for Californians to experience hunting, fishing, and the shooting sports. And it's really sort of convoluted because there's so many layers to doing that, and there's so many irons in the fire, that it's not as simple as just saying, okay, we need more land access, so let's just open all the lands. I wish it was that easy, but because of the powers that be, our lands don't operate quite like that. It's not just a matter of snapping your fingers and changing things. So by having everyone work together in a community coalition model, we really are able to figure out what works best by people who have sort of forged ahead in various areas. Some of our organizations are really good at one thing and others are good at another thing. And so by working together, we're able to kind of cover all of our bases, which is really novel considering that a lot of these interests may compete with each other as well. So slide, please. So ultimately, we're working together to create space where both traditional hunting and fishing identities can be celebrated, but new identities and inclusiveness and difference can also be embraced. This is not an effort to push out the old guys, right? We need the old guys. The old guys teach us, and without the old guys, I wouldn't know what I know. They're the ones that mentored me. Just as much as they need us and us millennial types to hold the future, we need them to teach us how to do that. And so through this process, we're really committed to a few things. The first one is to ensure that our prior assumptions, biases, and failed solutions don't overpower the potential for innovative, well-formulated, and substantiated recommendations for action. I know that's a huge mouthful, but really all that means is that we want to learn from our past mistakes and move forward with creative solutions for the future to get more people involved. The second thing is we want to build a more cohesive and empowered hunting, fishing, and shooting sports community by bringing multiple voices and perspectives to the issues that we all face. We want to be cognizant of the different demographics. We want to be cognizant of the different challenges and barriers that people experience and know that there's not just one experience that fits everyone's barrier to learning how to hunt and fish. And then the third thing is to determine the appropriate and relevant priorities so we can push the best ideas into action. And so to be clear again, it's not about pushing out the people that are here. And I think that sometimes there's a little bit of fear about that, right? Change is scary. But it's really about embracing the people that are here already to help us figure out a way to expand the seats at the table. And with them, we can succeed as a community, just as their legacy can live on if we embrace and encourage new people to join. So I think the other thing to really think about is to understand that R3 is responsible to help negotiate the relationships between the generations, including the politics that look very different sometimes between my generation and other generations. The technology also looks different between my generation and other generations. But at the end of the day, everybody who hunts and fishes currently they're makers of culture. It's a certain culture that exists, and it's a culture that is learned in many ways. And so we can recruit lots of people, but if we as a community don't understand how to adequately catch those new people, they're not going to stay. So I think R3 is responsible for teaching people and groups how to catch and retain these new people into these activities. Slide, please. So I just want to cover a few notable efforts that we've achieved since the start of the R3 effort. As Director Bonham said, license sales are currently up. As COVID has happened, we've seen a renewed interest in outdoor recreation and things like RV sales, boat sales, everything across the board having to do with the outdoors is shooting up through the sky, which is really great. So in responding to current events and the need for new virtual tools, we have been able to institute 100% temporary online hunters education. Our law enforcement division has done a really great job to make sure that people have access to Hunters Ed during this time while in-person classes have been suspended. We're working on developing a virtual seminar series for people that are new to hunting, fishing, foraging, and the shooting sports called the Harvest Huddle Hour, and we're hoping that that can launch next month. We've created a new R3 webpage that you can find off of wildlife.ca.gov. It's /R3. And then the R3 implementation plan includes developing a 365-day fishing license with an auto renewal option, which is being worked on, though neither have been realized yet at this point. We're hopeful for the future around that. And then one of the other things is the way we talk with customers. And we've launched an email collection campaign to be able to expand how we can communicate with people in the future. We have new marketing strategies that we've moved forward with. We have a wild food campaign that we launched in January called California's Wild Kitchen, and that aims to specifically grab the attention of folks who don't currently hunt and fish, but are interested in wild food and foraging. We are looking at using inclusive approaches in imagery and messaging through our outreach tool. And if you look at some of the new hunting and fishing messaging across California, including in our NGO stakeholder partners media, you'll see much more diverse imagery and messaging than, say, 10 years ago, which is great. And then collaboration. We are collaborating, like I said, on the national level, but we're also collaborating on the state level with people in that stakeholder wheel that you saw earlier. And without that collaboration, I don't know that this effort would be successful. And in fact, no, I do know it definitely would not be successful. So, big thank you to all of the R3 stakeholders who are engaged, who stay engaged, and do so sometimes frustratingly so. But we're here for the future, and I think that we're all in it for the long run. But the last one I want to talk about quickly is just the expanding access to lands that had been previously closed, and expansion of programs like the Shared Habitat Alliance for Recreational Enhancement, or SHARE program. There's new properties that have been added this year for elk hunting on private land. The lands package was passed last year with the Fish and Game Commission. There are expansions happening with fishing in the city. So we're excited that these things are happening, even though we're sort of limited in this post-COVID world on how we do work. And we're hopeful for the future that we can keep working with this. So with that, thank you all for your time and learning a little bit about R3. If you guys are interested in learning more, please feel free to check out the R3 webpage. You can also Google the R3 action plan and implementation strategy. It's the easiest way to find it. Just CDFW R3 implementation plan will bring it up. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks so much, Jen, for all of your work. And it's a great way to explain and sort of connect all the dots between Holly and Kevin's leadership and passion and sort of what we're trying to do at the state level. I have to say, I mean, incredible group of speakers, and I think I could have listened to each of you for an hour. That being said, we've only got a little bit of time for questions and answers. So I want to start with one, which is, I'm told we're joined by several hundred people on this webcast here today. And I imagine that includes policymakers, some folks that know a lot about this from groups, some people that are just learning. And I want to ask each of you, what's one thing that you would ask of people watching today, given that we've got a big, probably broad group of interested folks tuning in? But what's one thing we can, that you'd ask of people, and you could identify a certain group, whether it's a state agency or organizations or companies. How can we be helpful towards ensuring that these activities are more accessible to more Californians? Holly, we'll start with you.
Thank you so much, Secretary Crowfoot. At California Waterfowl, we work with policymakers and lawmakers quite extensively to try and get policies and laws that are favorable to hunting and that don't suppress hunting. I do want to add that there's one thing, you have to be really careful about doing things that might inadvertently suppress hunting. So there was a law that went into effect last year. There was two laws that went into effect last year. One was continuing or finalizing the phase-in of the lead ammunition ban for hunting, and the other was the beginning of background checks for ammunition. And I will say this right now, I've been hunting lead-free since 2010, so I am not complaining about that. But having both of these laws go into effect at the same time really, really plummeted hunting license sales, especially when it came time for upland seasons. It was the first year that many upland hunters needed to use non-lead ammunition, and it was hard to find in the stores because it had just gone into effect, and it was hard for many of them to deal with the new background check system. Not that they weren't eligible, but they just couldn't deal with it. So I understand the goals that were behind both of those laws, but you have to be really careful about the unintended effects. DFW lost a ton of revenue from that loss from the decline in license sales. And hopefully we're recovering it this year. It sounds like license sales are up, which is great, but we hate to do anything that makes people give up. There's hunters like me who are completely avid. I will hunt all the time, no matter what. Like, what, you cannot throw anything in front of me that's going to make me stop. But there's other people who are more sensitive to that. And if you make it a lot harder, and if you make it take a lot more time, and you make it hard for them to do what they need to do, they're going to give up and do something else, because it's California. There's a lot of other things you could be doing. And losing hunters comes at a cost. So I would say just be really sensitive to things you do that might have unintended consequences and suppress hunting and fishing participation.
Thank you, Holly. Kevin, what can folks tuning in today do to be helpful to you and organizations, like yours that are actually on the ground, getting kids learning and becoming lifetime fishers?
I think a good way to do it, I was thinking about this question actually when I got the questions, what is, I think maybe more clinics or something, maybe 101s, that's what we do, but to have more open clinics like that. I know one of the ones that we work with is Recreational Boating Foundation, RBFF, and IGFA, that they have, like, I think last week was National Anglers Week or something, or International Anglers Week. And then there's one that RBFF does where they do these city clinics, and we're talking about them trying to do it with NOAA as well. Here is just trying to set up more how-to clinics, either at, you can work with tackle shops locally or something like that, either locally or, either corporate. Like we have Turner Outdoors, which is a smaller California, I think in Arizona only, as opposed to a mom and pop shop. And then, all the way to Bass Pro Shops. I know they do some things, but we have, our closest one is Rancho Cucamonga. So I don't know, we go there for Christmas and hang out for the day. But, I think just more clinics, 101, like we do it for free. But if you were just to set up, piers, different areas, maybe a lake, there's some probably logistics to that, because you might have, like I say, as we grow, how many people show up, how many can you handle, volunteers and all that. But if you maybe have like an online sign up first to see what you get. But I think the best way is the introduction, letting them see it. And then that way you get a chance. I'm like a super networker. So then you get a chance to show the, if you have your Department of Fish and Wildlife representative there to kind of answer those questions on hand, kind of like a panel like this, we have a little diversity there to give a perspective from the hunter, like she said earlier in her presentation about the older folk. We try to use it in a term like an ambassador. Some people are there just to help. They're not a board member. They're not an officer. They don't show up to all of our kid days, but there's definitely an ambassador role. I learned that with the Chamber of Commerce, as where people are there that are aging out, kind of, how could they still be useful and resourceful? So there's different ways that you can have a pool of those people show up. But I think clinics and how-tos at, stuff like that is a good way for introduction to get more people to get started.
Excellent idea. Jen, you spent a lot of time thinking about this, so you could probably identify, 20 things that people could do to be helpful, but pare it down to one, sort of pithy way, folks can actually be helpful towards reactivating these activities.
Right. I think the number one thing that we struggle with here in California is public perception of hunting and fishing. And so my challenge, I guess, to the hunters and anglers would be to show up and to show up in a way that's useful for the situation. Not on social media necessarily, but in person. Show up and have conversations with people that teach people your perspective. And on the flip side, if you're not a hunter and angler, take the time to show up also. show up and have a conversation with a hunter and an angler. So many of the issues that hunters and anglers face could be eliminated with just a simple human connection and a human understanding of someone else's lifestyle. So with that, I just wish that people would take the time to not make assumptions about whichever side you're on, if there's sides, and have conversations to build bridges. That's all.
That's great. And just, my own personal story is my dad taught me how to fish, and it remains, one of my best memories with my dad is spending summers up in Northern Ontario lake fishing. But when I came to California, I didn't have that connection. I was living in the Bay Area. I didn't know how to ocean fish, nor did I have any mentors, and I didn't do that. I only recently, am back to doing it with fishing license, and I've had to find mentors. So I think showing up for what it's worth, that doing fly fishing and such. So I think showing up, and as Kevin said, actually, connecting people that want to learn with those mentors is absolutely critical. I'm really energized by this conversation, and I love these discussions because we're bringing in people from outside of our world in Sacramento that are getting it done on so many levels. And Kevin and Holly, you guys are incredible. Jen, working with us within government, thank you. We've run out of time for more questions just because the presentations were so dynamic and interesting. I want to give Chuck the last word, given that you're the person in charge of the department that oversees all this and ultimately want to make R3 and all this effort work really well. Final thoughts to leave our panelists with and all the folks who have tuned in.
What I'd encourage or ask for is each of us have an open heart and an open mind for the other. The outdoors are such a special place. The more people we can help have that connection for whatever reason, the better. And I very firmly believe we've got these responsibilities as people to each other to have a duty to benefit and serve each other. And this idea of reaching out and building relationships with an open heart and an open mind is going to be our future. It's our future for conservation. It's our future in California. I'm just humbled to be in this conversation with the individuals you point out who bring such passion to it. Wade. Just don't ask me where my favorite fishing places are. That's like top secret. But otherwise, just huge tip of the hat. I hope all the 400, 500, 600 people who are watching feel energized, feel motivated, want to step outside today, breathe in the air, think about it, and hopefully become part of this big conservation movement that secures California's future.
Fitting last words. Thank you all for joining us. If we were in an audience setting, I'd say please thank our panelists, but just know that your participation, Holly, Kevin, Jen, is much appreciated. Have a great day all, and be sure to, if you're interested, tune into subsequent discussions within the Secretary series. Thank you.